Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 185 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I am your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and now a two-time author. Our second book, From Letters to Leaders, Redefining New Member Education and Leveraging Belonging to Eliminate Hazing. This book is now available on pre-order right now at Amazon. It is going to be released, dropping on Monday, November 8th. Wow. So go and buy that book today, and you will get your hands on it Monday morning from Amazon when it is released. Now, we call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there's nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact, one piece of advice that I give to college students about job interviews is to ask for the job. At the end of the interview, I want you to say in no uncertain terms, I would really like to have this job. Because all things being equal, I will take the person who is really excited about this specific opportunity any day over the person who seems unsure about the job or unsure about my company. So leave the interview with no questions by shaking their hand and telling them you really want this job. That by itself is gold that will lead you to good things ahead. Now, our next guest once struggled with crippling fear and anxiety in her early career. She suffered in silence and was afraid of her own power and her seat at the corporate table. She thought she was an imposter who would soon be found out. And her own fear and anxiety disqualified her from all the promotions that she desired during the first 5 years of her career. But one day she finally had enough. She overcame all of her fear, she mastered her psychology, and finally discovered her true value. And she stopped settling for less than what she was really worth. This act of courage changed her entire life. She then got promoted multiple times and became an executive at Salesforce, IBM, and NASA. Yeah, I said it. So she's here to help you get over your imposter syndrome. Welcome to the show, Arlena Jackson.
Woohoo! Wow, what an introduction. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. I bring the fire. So if you want me to introduce you on stages around the country, just pack me in your suitcase. I will do it for you, no problem.
You got it. I'm spoiled now.
All right. So I want to make sure that our listeners know who you are, because you are like a rocket heading to the moon right now. And I'm like, hey, if I can grab onto Arlena and capture this for our audience and make sure they know who you are, then this is going to be a wonderful thing for everybody. So you decided on Florida A&M for your undergraduate experience. Why was Florida A&M the right choice for you?
So, hey, listen, I am so happy to answer that question. But before I do that, I want to say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today. I tell you, when you opened up, I just wanted to just jump out of my seat because I thought, wow, he is full of fire and I have to bring the fire today. So that means that your audience is so very much so used to this. And I hope I do you justice. Also, congratulations on your book. I ordered 10 copies. All right. Yes. I am so excited about Letters to Leaders that I had to get 10 copies. And I'm going to make certain that my community know that the goodness is in this book. So, to your point, and answering your question, why did I decide on Florida A&M? Is that what you asked?
That's it.
Okay, so I decided on Florida A&M University because, quite frankly, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. My heart was set on, at the time, Memphis State University, which is now the University of Memphis. And my family relocated from Memphis to Tallahassee, Florida. There was a gentle giant by the name of Dr. Frederick Humphreys, who at the time was the president of the university, and he went around talking about life gets better. Life gets better. And he actually offered me a scholarship, a full-time scholarship to Florida A&M University because of my leadership and the things that I had done, but also he wanted me to know that life gets better, right? I, at the time, was not familiar with Florida A&M University or historically Black colleges and universities. But that is where I grew the most. It is the best decision that I ever could have made in my life. And I am so grateful for all things learned, what we call on the hill at Florida A&M University. So for me, I decided on the university because I had a scholarship and I wanted to be able to lower my debt, not get into a lot of debt. And it was one of the first scholarships extended to me. And so I took it and I ran with it. And that's how I ended up attending Florida A&M University.
I love it. I'm actually showing my son a college campus this weekend. He's a junior in high school right now, and you
Okay.
are so dialed in. I'm like, hey, if you're getting a full ride to this university, we are going to
Yes.
go and take a tour, and we're going to understand
Yes.
everything about it, because not having any debt, I mean,
Yes.
that is going to serve you well going forward.
Correct. Yes.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, we talked a little bit about your crippling imposter syndrome for the first 5 years of your career, and you were continuously passed over for these promotions. So how did you overcome this imposter syndrome?
So the one thing that sticks out to me about the imposter syndrome is, first and foremost, it is definitely fear and anxiety, right? And it is that debilitating experience that we have when the night before you've got to get up and say, go into class or go into work and things of that nature. Some people do not know that they have it. And I, in college, didn't realize that I suffered from it tremendously, and it carried over into my professional career. And I never forget one day, I decided that I would start to look for mentors. And I was with Christine T. She's actually out of Singapore. At the time, she was the director of field marketing. And she said something to me that sparked me. And she said, Arlena, you're doing a great job. You simply need to stop asking for permission and start doing. And I thought, oh my goodness, I was waiting on someone to come and save me or to see and pat me on the back for the outstanding job that I was doing. And I wasn't aggressive and proactive, right? I mean, you come from the corporate world as well. So you know, nobody is going to come and save you.
That's right.
You know, we are swimming in this huge, huge ocean and the water is red, right? And we know when water is red, it's because everybody is eating. Everybody is chomping at the bait. And so as opposed to waiting, I started doing. And that was life-changing for me. And so the next interview that I went on, I remember saying, listen, you know, when they got to salary, I like increased my want by 50,000. And I never forget, it was with the chief marketing officer, Kay Keenis. If you're listening to this, shout out to you. And I'm gonna make certain that you get it because you changed my life. And she was there with one of her directors of marketing. And I never forget Kay asking me, you know, what is your salary requirement? And when I began to say what it was, and after I finished, her director chimed in and said, well, wow, that's a huge leap from what you're currently making. And I stood up for myself and said, you know, I'm not responsible for that, but I am responsible for making sure that you know I'm a value add, and therefore I expect to be compensated accordingly. And Kay literally, you know, I could see her eyes widening and leaping for joy because she was like, okay, you've got it. You believe you're worth that? I believe in you. And she immediately paid me what I was worth. But here's the key, I had to ask. Right? I had to ask, even with the butterflies in my stomach, even with, you know, that heart rate pumping, I had to ask, and the trembling, right? But I did it. And so that is how you combat the imposter syndrome. And that for me was life-changing, and I never turned back.
Wow, beautiful advice for all of our college students right now. I mean, that is just incredible. And the companies that you have worked for on the corporate side is incredible. I mean, you worked at IBM for 4 years doing public relations and marketing.
Yes.
So how did that experience impact your career?
Let me tell you, it impacted me in ways more than one. And so for all of our young people, especially our college young men and young women who are listening to this, your first job is not going to be where you start, is not where you finish, but it's an awesome opportunity to put you on a great path, right? And be open to the fact that there are going to be leaders and individuals who will see something in you that you probably have not seen in yourself. So as you said, yes, I was hired to work in the field of public relations, and I will submit to you that that was my day job. Because one day my manager walked in and said, hey, there's a cool opportunity and we want you to have a seat at the table. And I'm thinking, well, what is it? I'm already working in public relations. And at the time we were, going after Microsoft. If you know anything about the tech world, we were doing that, IBM and Microsoft. And so when he said he wanted me to have a seat at the table, I thought, okay, let me do it. When it turned out he wanted me, because I had been an IBM intern, to actually sit at the table where I would lead and cultivate and create the corporate IBM communications internship program. It was not formalized, right? But he saw something in me because I'd been an intern with them before. He knew that I had it in me and the passion to help other people have the awesome experience. That changed my life because it ended up that was a demand from the chief communications officer at the time, John Awada, and Edward Barbini, our senior executive, said that this is important. We need to make it happen. And the people who got the seat at the table were the ones who ended up getting the exposure. So that became my nighttime job. And fast forward, now I'm a career coach, right, to college women. But at the time, I didn't know that that would be setting me up to be successful for where I am now. But I was willing to say yes. I was willing to say yes to that opportunity. And I had to trust that my manager had my best interest at heart, and he did. And it was the best decision that I could have made. So I grew tremendously as this corporate communications professional. But then I also was given the opportunity to work with human resources, to be a campus recruiter. Here I am on paper as a public relations specialist, but now I'm working with human resources. Now I'm a campus recruiter, and now I'm formalizing a program that became my legacy, right? It became my legacy. So IBM was life-changing for me. They gave me the first opportunity to have an internship as a journalism student. I was being paid very well, and all I knew is that I loved making that level of money. And so I made sure that when they came and recruited me from Syracuse University when I was working on my MBA and said, hey, we want you to come back to IBM, I went. And then I was willing to say yes. And to take that opportunity, it has just been life-changing.
I love that answer. And I think there's an important lesson embedded in there for the college students who are listening right now, especially for the fraternity and sorority leaders, which is to say that you have to show confidence in the younger people in your organization and let them know, I see you as the next president of our chapter. I see you as the next treasurer because you have these skills. And then suddenly, just because you're a leader and maybe you're a senior or a junior in the chapter, your confidence in them actually allows them to see themselves in that role. And until you say that, they don't believe that they can do it. And so it's so important. And even for somebody like me, I will tell you that, being the executive director of your national fraternity is a very humbling thing because we have over 100,000 members, right? Wow. So that's a humbling thing to wrap your arms around, right? And I didn't go to an Ivy League school. We have Ivy League chapters, but I didn't go to one of those. I went to SUNY Buffalo, State University of New York, Buffalo. So a state school, right? And so when a member of the board of directors, we were just talking about fraternity because this is what we do. And, I said something and he just looked at me over dinner and said, you're going to be the next executive director of the fraternity. And I was blown away. I was like, you're not talking about me. I was like, I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I mean, there's got to be, somebody else that can do that. And he said, no, you're the one. And it wasn't until he said that I actually believed that I could do it. And so that is just something that, our leaders that are listening
That's the lesson.
Really have to understand that concept that people won't believe they can do it until you as a leader, basically tell them, this is why I think you can do it. And then suddenly you sit up a little bit straighter in your chair. And now suddenly you're like, I can do it.
I can do it. And you know what? That is the hidden responsibility of leadership that nobody really talks about, right? But as a leader, not only are you leading, but you're responsible, right, for going back and bringing others up with you, right? We bring someone with us as we rise and we climb. That is the most beautiful thing that you could ever do. And every time that I was elevated and I was pushed, Christine T, you need to stop asking and do it. The leader told me to do that. And I did it, right? My manager coming in and saying, you're going to be on this committee. I did it, right? And it was life-changing. And to this day, I can't thank John Buckles enough for putting me up for that from IBM. And shout out to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we have to talk about NASA because it's just cool as hell. You work for NASA as a communications director. Tell
Yes.
our audience what it was like to work for NASA.
So let me tell you, I pinched myself literally every day that I went into that job because I could not believe little old me from Memphis, Tennessee, right, going to Florida A&M University, and then later on, Syracuse would be given this opportunity to sit at the table with some of the most brilliant minds that you can ever think about and imagine existing in the world. But I will say that they were so humble, so inviting, and I was put in a position where I all of a sudden was helping them take very technical and science-driven language and putting it in layman's term. And so, having worked for the Science and System Missions Division, my job was to communicate the payloads as we were going up for an assignment or a launch, right? And the payloads are simply the things that are going to help you complete the mission. And I had to communicate that. And it was for me an opportunity to say, you know what, this is how I can leave a legacy. Because I think they invited me to the table because I came from cutting edge communications in the world of technology. And they really wanted to know, what are some of the best practices? Are we doing that? And how can we get better at communicating? And so I used, everything building from that first job, right, to come there and to be able to now all of a sudden be the subject matter expert. And I was so valued. It was the best time of my life. And again, I pinched myself every day because I talked to astronauts. I talked to all the folks with the PhDs and things of that nature. And they were all listening to me, right? Little old me. And that experience, again, was one of those things that completely changed my life. And I am so grateful. And it was very, very rewarding. And every day you walk in the halls, and you knew that you were amongst greatness. And you also knew that you were doing life-changing work for different missions that no one, not many of us get those opportunities. And so I didn't take it for granted. I had an awesome experience at NASA and talking about the payloads to complete the missions. And again, I was just so grateful for that I took the moment to sit in it, because sometimes we get these opportunities and we're constantly thinking about what's next. But rather than do that, I literally, as I'm talking to you, can smell the hallways that I walked in every day. I can see the people, I can see the excitement, behind those walls. And the fact that I sat in that made it such a very rewarding experience, because some people have different opinions. How would you go from tech to now, science and making the switch? But I will say this, that once a communicator, always a communicator. And that is something that is a skill for our young people, our leaders, especially in the fraternity and sorority life, is we listen. And when we listen, your audience will tell you what they need. Your members are going to tell you. And when you do that, it creates this opportunity for you to just be better and better. And that's what I did. I decided to listen, right, to the astronauts. I listened to my leadership. And then as the subject matter expert, I came in and gave what I thought would be the next best step from a communication standpoint.
Wow, I am so jealous. It sounds like an incredible experience. And I love, love, love your business, because all the Gen Z students that are listening right now, all they want to talk about is their careers. And
Yes.
So I'm totally down with that. You founded Elevation Ally, and you are the top career coach for college
Yes.
women out there. What are some job search strategies that you can share with our audience, or maybe, it could be college students or recent grads that are looking for employment? What job search strategies do you have for them?
So first and foremost, start at home. I think that we're so busy looking that we forget to focus on what's right in front of me. And what's right in front of you is your fraternity or your sorority, right? Mm-hmm. And now you have this network of all of these great individuals who once was just like you, a collegiate member, who are now your alumni. Start at home. Start with what is right in front of you. I submit to you, our fraternity and sorority leaders, that when you do that, you will be shocked at how many of your sisters and brothers are so willing to sit down and talk with you, to tell you about their experience, to give you guidance, to pick up the phone and call someone on your behalf, right? Don't miss that opportunity. That's the first job strategy that I will give to you. The second one is Take the time to sit with yourself and think about 10 to 15 years from now, or even it's my retirement party, what letter am I writing, right, to be that speech to my audience? Who's in the audience? Who am I thanking, right? Where are some of the cool places that I've worked and what did I do when I was there? You need to dream and get very, very serious about that, because if not, when you graduate college, the world will drown you out. And at least you will have that to go back and reference along the way. So do that exercise and you'll find that that will open up some creativity. Now that you have the creativity, write your list of wish companies that you would like to go to, right? Don't just go and say, oh, I'm going to go and just do this search, because now you're just opening up the world to return back to you what the world thinks. Think about the companies where you want to go. And if you don't know those companies, think about companies that have some of the same values as you and their mission aligns with you. It speaks to you. And then get busy knocking on those doors by going to their website. Start there first, look for the opportunities that they have, and then be very intentional. The biggest mistake that I find a lot of young people make is that we start with our resume first, and then we go out and search. After we've spent 10,000 hours on the resume and on YouTube University and Google University, now for whatever reason, we feel like we're the expert, we feel good about it, and we go and search, and then you start to have this reality check that you might not find anything based on that resume. So I always say, reverse it. Look for the opportunity first, and then create a resume that aligns with that opportunity. I do a seminar every Sunday. It's a free resume workshop where I talk about how you can go about the search and what you need to do to your resume to align it with that role, not starting with the resume first and then going into the job search.
Wow, that's absolutely brilliant. And I also want to say here, I don't know if the college students realize how much power they have while they're in college, because you can reach out to anybody. I don't care who it is on LinkedIn. And if you're a college student right now, I will 9 times out of 10 say yes to you if you're asking me for like a 15-minute, call or a 15-minute Zoom, and you're saying, hey, I want to get into your industry, or I want to get into your company, and I have a few questions that I want to ask you, and you're very specific about, what questions you have, and like a fixed time, maybe 15 minutes. I might not be available today, but I will schedule you and I will talk to you, because I know that, in your heart, it's pure. You're not trying to sell me anything. You just want to know more about what I do for a living, or you want to know more about the company that I work for. And I'm glad to share that with you, because you have good intentions. And so, but people don't realize that, and they're afraid to reach out to people that are high up on the ladder or work for their ideal company.
Absolutely. And if you are afraid, I would love for you to come and see me, because I will help you with that, right? I will help you come up with the questions that Michael has outlined, because they are so great and so brilliant. Run this tape back if you're listening and grab those questions, because those are actually some of the questions that I give to the young people that I work with, right? And knock on the doors and not be afraid of that. And, you are a value add, because what we realize is that you've been in school for the last 4 years or 5 years, and your brain now is very cutting edge and the latest and the greatest of it all. So just like you're going to them to have the conversation, believe you me, they want to hear what you have to say, because they're looking for the latest and greatest and the most cutting edge information. Use that to your advantage. Be clear. I call it collective experience. Be clear about your course experience and ask yourself, what are the top 3 things that I learned in this course this past semester? All right. Be clear about your leadership experience. The Greek University opportunity that you have right here at Greek University is so brilliant, because you are bringing the best of the best together to a community that absolutely knows there's value and there's leadership that comes out of the Greek system. Be clear on that leadership experience and take that back when you're going to the table and say, hey, I'm a value add because of my course experience, because of my leadership experience. You can't beat that. Right? You just can't beat it. It is like the greatest thing that you can do is be a part of the Greek system, because it gives you, whether you believe it or not, project management skills, leadership skills. And when you're talking to individuals, don't be afraid to bring that out and let that shine on your behalf.
Communication skills, leadership skills, motivation skills. Who's running a budget of, a 6-figure budget, when you're talking about housing and all this other stuff? you have gold. You have no
Yep.
idea of what a distinct advantage you have as a fraternity or
Yes.
sorority leader over all the other graduates that are out there. You just have
Yes.
to understand how to position that with
Yes.
data and quantify for me how you made the
Woo.
organization better. If you can do that, now we're
Mm.
talking, because I can figure out how to work that in my company.
Secret sauce. You better play this again and share it
Play
with your
it again.
friends.
Go
That is
back and
very,
listen
very
to it again.
valuable.
Now, listen, you see a bunch of resumes. I know you've seen probably millions of resumes at this point. What
Hmm.
mistakes are college students making on their resumes that you see all the time?
So the one thing that I see all the time is that we are not confident enough to take the time to sit and bring the experience over. And so what they put on their resume is truly a drop in the bucket compared to what they really have to offer. All
Mhm.
right. And they're not confident about that because they haven't taken the time to do their collective experience exercise. And again, that's going back and looking at courses, leadership experience, project management experience. Make certain that that resume that you have that experience show up, but then align that experience and personalize it to the job that you are applying to. A lot of times when students come to me, they have the one resume and they look at that as their golden ticket. And they're like, I just want to use this one. This is what I have. I spent my 10,000 hours. This works. This works. And they're so tied to it that we spend a lot of time doing the mindset work to help them know there's no such thing as a perfect resume, right? When it comes to your resume personalization is the golden ticket. And you have to do the collective experience exercise. Make that experience now speak to the job that you are applying to. Boom, now you overcome the ATS, application tracking systems. You're now in front of hiring managers, right? Because they feel like this person is talking directly to me. And I'll tell you this, the reason why that's so important is because companies are not hiring the best candidate or people. You want to know who they hire? They hire the solution to their problems because
Mm.
they are trying to, a job description is nothing more than hidden pain points that a company is experiencing. And now we are looking for the solution to our problem. And when you do that mindset shift and you follow this strategy, that is why a lot of the young women whom I've coached, they've gotten 6 job offers. And that's a great problem to have, right? And now they can step back and say, what's the best next step? And where should I start? And you are now in the driver's seat and you can select from any offer that you want. It is a strategy and it should not be based on the perfect resume. And that is one of the mistakes that I see. They're so tied to the perfect resume and this customized template that we get from our universities, when in fact, when you leave the university environment and you're not going to career fairs and things of that nature, resume personalization is where it's at. And that's what you have to master.
Thank you for sharing that. You're absolutely right. If you see a bunch of help wanted ads, these are a bunch of companies that have a headache. And if
Yep.
you want to solve that headache, you need to
Yes.
be the Advil, you need to be the Tylenol, whatever. That's what you are.
Love it.
And that's
Yes.
what it is. I mean, that's
Yes, it
exactly what
is.
it is. And your resume better explain how you're going to fix that headache. If you're just giving
Absolutely.
them, Robitussin, that doesn't help them with their headache right now. They've got a
Absolutely.
headache. So you
Absolutely.
have
Until
to be
you're,
able to read those list of ingredients and
oh
say,
my
I
God.
fix headaches.
I love it because the people who are the ones who climb the corporate ladder, they've become
Mhm.
very comfortable in solving headaches, right?
Right.
They've become very comfortable with writing the prescription to the company headaches. Let me tell you a different way. They're the ones that when the building is on fire, they're running into the building while everyone else is running out of the building, right? We call those the firefighters, and all of us have that in us, but no one has taken the time to sit and think about it. We are looking for the firefighters. The building is on fire. It's always on fire because if you're not number one, you're number 2 trying to get to number 1, right, in your industry. And if your company is number 1 in the industry, they're doing everything they can to stay at the top because they know that the 2s and the 3s and the 4s are coming after them. Find that headache. You are right on par, and then write the prescription. And don't be afraid to say that,
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what Arlena is telling you is that in college, you can learn to be a problem solver. Every single
Yes.
one of us has that ability. The question is, do you you know how to unlock that ability to solve
Yes.
problems. And your fraternity has problems right now. Your
Yes.
sorority has problems right now. Learn how to be a problem solver, because those problem solvers are the ones that move up the corporate ladder the fastest. I'm just telling
Absolutely.
you from years and
Absolutely.
decades of experience,
Yes, yes, you're right.
that's what works and that's what sells. So, learn that skill right now. I'm just telling you. Now, job interviews can be very stressful for college students, so I totally get that. What advice do you have for college students to ace their interviews?
Absolutely. So I talk about that a lot. And here's, when you opened up, you had the most beautiful advice, right? And you talked about how you close an interview.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we have to do is don't worry about trying to sell yourself as the best candidate. Worry about unlocking the challenges that this company is experiencing or the pain points that the hiring manager is trying to solve, and be very clear on your value add to help them solve those problems.
Yep.
And you need to structure your mind and your interview before you get into it so that you remain in the driver's seat. And you do that by opening with a bang, right? Every student comes, and 9 out of 10, they will talk about themselves in terms of their name, their university, and what they're studying. I submit to you that you can switch that up and open with a bang so that you capture Michael right at the top of that interview with him. And you say, hello, my name is Arlena Jackson, right? I aspire to be a global communications executive with IBM. In my spare time, I enjoy being a Roby Derby team member. And oh, by the way, one day my legacy will be the lives that I change and the customer impact that I'm having on these customers with my innovative communication solutions. What I just did for you is I said something different, because the other 9 students that Michael talked to, they gave their name, the university, and what they're studying. He already knows that because he's smart and brilliant. He's already reviewed your resume. Come in right away, break the ice, and pull him in to want to hear more, because the psychology behind that professional introduction is you said I aspire. So now you broke down their belief that you're going to be there for 6 months or a year and leave. When you say that I aspire to be this global executive within whatever company and personalize it back to them, even though it's an entry-level position, they hear longevity. That's what that leader heard. Now, when you talk about what you do in your spare time, you just humanized yourself, and they want to know more. And finally, when you talk about legacy, they realize that it's bigger than you, and it's not just about you. And they don't hear a lot of young people doing that. They think that a lot of young people are self-absorbed because of this world of social media and things like that. So you change the narrative. And when you change the narrative, right, and you pull them in, you position yourself now as someone that they absolutely have to have. They have to hear more, and they're so excited.
Arlena, you are hired. I mean, you know how to kill it on an interview. You just gave everybody the recipe. So go back and listen to that recipe, take notes on how to do that for yourself, because she just killed it and got the job literally in 30 seconds. So just listen to what she had to say and go and play that back. And what I would tell you is you're absolutely right. I mean, every interview that I've ever seen, it always starts out with this softball question, tell me more about yourself or something like that. So it's going to be coming. Like, that's the first question that's going to be asked. You know it, right? We all know it right here. You know what the first question is going to be asked. So be prepared and have a success story to tell when they ask that question. You have a success story about your fraternity, about your sorority, about a college class where you just, killed it with a project. Have that success story ready to go, because that's question number 1. And if you're not prepared for it, that's your fault.
That's your fault. And then Michael gave you, go back and rewind this to the beginning. He said to never leave that interview without asking for the job. So right before you ask for that job, you say, hey, I've enjoyed our time together today. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. Have I answered all of your questions, or is there anything that you would like for me to expand upon, right? Right then and there, they're going to tell you, because they're not expecting you to say that. Their body language, as well as what they say, is going to tell you exactly how you did on the job. And 9 out of 10 on that interview, and 9 out of 10 When they give you your praise, you walk right in with Michael's closing, all right? And you
That's
let
right.
them know that you would absolutely love to have this job.
Yes.
That is how you do it. And I just gave you, in a short period of time, with Michael's help, I've gave you an opening and I've given you something to close with. And if you want to know what to do in between, visit me at elevationalley.com and I'll be glad to help you.
You're a pro. There's no question about that. Now, we talked about the interview. We talked about how to close. How do you now convert this interview opportunity into a high-paying job offer now?
All right, so I tell you, you've done your homework.
Yes.
You're
Yes,
speaking my
ma'am.
language right back to me, converting the interview into a job offer.
Yes,
And that is what
ma'am.
everybody wants to know how to do. So here's the deal. By the time you do that opening and the closing, you will indeed be invited back for a second interview. Normally, you're going to hit that out of the ballpark and they'll bring you back for a third interview. When you want to convert from an interview to a job offer, you want to be clear and do this nice leave behind called your 30-day activity plan. That is going to show them how you would add value within your first 30 days of having that job. 9 out of 10, you're the only one who did that out of everybody that they're talking to and interviewing, because yes, it requires a little bit more time and effort. But when you are talking to managers and hiring managers and HR people, jot down what they say you will be doing and what you will be responsible for. And you can always ask the hiring manager, what do you believe are the top 3 priorities for this new hire? The person that will have this position, they're going to tell you, guess what? When you get that information, you go home and you work up a 30-day activity plan that you're going to do to take care of those priorities. Now, on that last interview, you submit that to the human resources manager, who's been your traffic controller of all the interviews, and thank them for that opportunity and say, oh, by the way, here's my 30-day activity plan to share how I will add value if given the opportunity to join your team. Boom.
Wow.
That's it.
Yeah, you know what you're talking about. You would be hired in 2 seconds. So this is absolutely great. Now, there is this transition that the college students are going to go to or go through from college student to adulting. And so
Yes.
I'm wondering about managing this shift to adulting. How do you make the most out of this new job that you've got and the income that you're now getting?
Yes. First and foremost, extend yourself grace, because that is a transition that really takes time and effort, and you can knock it out of the ballpark if you are intentional. So pay attention to what Michael just said. He's telling you that this is coming so that you're not surprised or anything like that. It's very normal to have to transition away from a syllabus with a blueprint that tells you step by step what to do to get an A, right? Versus going on your job and having to add value and having to manage your finances at the same time. So here's what I will tell you. Commit yourself to being a lifelong learner. Get the right mentors in your life early on and quickly so that you can take the short term, right, way to getting to success. That is all mentoring is, as well as coaching. We shorten your learning curve to this next chapter of your life. And that's going to be very beneficial for you because you will now have people who've already did it. They're going to be experts in the areas of finances and things of that nature, and they're going to shorten your learning curve and give you very good guidance. Commit to being a lifelong learner. Don't be afraid to be a beginner. Admit what you know and what you don't know, and then hire the right coaches and or get you some mentors who will help you shorten your learning curve in those areas to get you to success a lot faster. You'll be glad you did, and you will also find that you won't have to deal with the imposter syndrome because you won't have the fear or the anxiety in the areas that you're not so comfortable in as you transition.
Bravo. Absolutely. Bravo. Phenomenal job here today. Now, you know, the last thing I will say is that everybody at Fraternity Foodie, we all love really good food, and you're all over the country. I mean, you spend time in LA, you spend time in San Francisco, you spend time in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes.
I mean, these are all cities that have phenomenal food, right? So I want to know, what's your favorite restaurant to go to?
All right, so if you're in New York City, I'd love to see you go to what they call Burger Joint. right?
Yes.
And it is in a hotel. It's not far from 42nd Street. Go catch some good theater stuff, and then make sure you get the burger at Burger Joint. They're open late and things of that nature. Only thing I want to tell you is that you're going to feel like you're eating a slice of heaven. It is so good. It is so greasy, and it's just all the things above. Now, if you're in Los Angeles and you are on the health kick, which, I love LA because being from Memphis, Tennessee, yes, I've experienced a lot of barbecue.
Yes.
But when I'm in LA, I love a lot of vegan food, right? And AU and then LAC, LAC, is a very good vegan restaurant to go to when you're visiting Los Angeles, and you get really good food, and they specialize in making it taste so good. Like if you order calamari, it's going to be some level of mushroom, but it tastes like calamari, and it's really, really good. So those are the two places from New York to LA that I would recommend.
And barbecue in between in Memphis, because there is some good barbecue in Memphis.
Yes.
Too.
Now tell me your favorite barbecue place, because it's funny when I hear people talk about this barbecue and then they tell me they're different places and stuff, and I'm just like, okay. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you.
I like all barbecue, but as a guy who lives in Nashville, I'll tell you, Martin's barbecue is good barbecue. I like it personally. There's also Peg Leg Porker is another really good place in Nashville. So yeah, some really, really good. There's so many. It really depends on what kind of barbecue you want. There's different barbecue in Memphis. There's different barbecue in Kansas City.
There you go.
There's so much. So
I always knew you were smart, but you're even smarter now, because you know that all barbecue is not created equal.
Correct.
And I love how you broke it down. And okay, we're friends. We're friends.
You can't. It's not all the same, right? So it depends on what you want, and so we have to have another conversation about what you want, and then I'll get you to the right place. But yeah, not all barbecue is equal, and this is something that only barbecue connoisseurs really understand. So anyway, so this has been so much fun. I absolutely love it. Can't wait to meet up with you in Nashville. We're definitely going to go and have lunch together, and we're going to have a good time.
Absolutely.
I got to tell you, there's a lot of synergy here. I love your energy, and I know that the listeners right now, they're feeling it as well. So if students want to hire you as a career coach, if they want to bring you in to speak within their sorority, within their fraternity, on campus, to the entire Greek community, where should they go to connect with you?
Hands down, and thank you for that. Elevation Alley, ALLY.com, right? ElevationAlley.com. And, when you come there, everything that you have questions to is going to be answered. You will know how to work with me. You will know how to hire me for a speaking opportunity. You will know different information, even just a lot of freebies if you want some solutions to some of your career launch problems. And in addition to that, before you come to me, I really want you to pick up this book right now that is so fire and so hot, Greek Letters to Leaders. You have to have it, right? Because that book is going to help you transition successfully from college to the workplace. And if you don't have it when you come to me, I'm going to give you a free copy, because I've purchased 10 because I am so excited about it, and it's absolutely what we need. And I want to thank you for bringing that to the marketplace. That was so brilliant. You beat me to it, and I'll give you the props on it. I love the title. I love the information that is inside of the book. Looking forward to sharing it. But yeah, get your book and then go to elevationalley.com.
I appreciate that plug, and you're absolutely right. Our book, Redefining New Member Education and Leveraging Belonging to Eliminate Hazing, there is a chapter in there all about networking. And Arlena, I know you're absolutely going to love that chapter, because really it does talk about how you can network while you're in college. There's no reason to start networking when you really need a job. Start networking today, and then you can set yourself up for your dream job at NASA upon graduation.
Please do yourself that favor and play this back and share it, because sharing is caring, right? And this is also an example to be a leader. Share. People love getting good information that can help them with their pain points. And we've covered some awesome topics today. And I just thank you for the work that you're doing. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to, come and share with your audience. And I'm so excited about partnering with Greek University. In my world that I live in, it's like, oh my God, he is the missing link. And I'm looking forward to some good food with you, but also doing the work. I love it.
All right, that sounds good. That's a deal. So if you like this interview with Arlena, please like it and share it with other students on campus. And we will see you on another episode of Fraternity Foodie. Thanks so much, Arlena, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.